Hey, it's Phil, and welcome on the Habit Bootcamps podcast, where I interview entrepreneurs and coaches about their mindset shifts and habits. In this episode, I interview Zachary Babcock, who is a goal achievement coach. Zachary is the host of the Underdog Empowerment Podcast and author of the book From Prison to Promised Land. Now, the story of Zach is pretty interesting. He used to be a drug addict and an alcoholic, and he went to jail 2 times. He was in prison for more than 5 years. When he was in prison, he found out that his girlfriend was pregnant with twins and he wasn't able to see them grow up in the beginning. He also found out that his sister had died. So all this time in prison made him contemplate what he wanted to do with his life and what goals he wanted to set. Now he's helping other people achieve their goals and make sure that they find their purpose. This really is a story about winning against all odds. In this podcast, we talked about how he got into prison in the first place. He gives some great advice for people who are in prison right now or just got out of prison and want to set their life straight. He teaches you how to set the right goals and make sure you achieve them. And he talks about the power of empowering questions. As always, check out this week's episode and let me know what you've learned from his story about him finding his purpose and setting the right goals. Drop a comment below, let me know what you've learned from this week's podcast, and enjoy the episode. Hey Zach, welcome on the Habit Bootcamps podcast. How are you feeling?
Right on. How you doing, Filip? Glad to be here, my man.
I'm doing good, man. I'm happy to have you on the podcast. I read your story, and it's really going to be interesting to listen to. For people who don't know you, if you would have to introduce yourself with 3 character traits or words, which one would you use?
3 words?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you put me on the spot there. Underdog entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell a bit about your story as an underdog, where you came from? Because now you're all about setting goals, but what was the first important event or thing that happened in your life that really had a big impact on the rest of your life?
Absolutely, man. So how this all came about, I did some time in prison for, growing up, being a knucklehead, was stealing cars, just didn't really have any meaning, any purpose in life or anything that was really driving me. No chief aim or goals. And, I did 4 years flat, came home for about 2 years. And then I got locked back up because I got in a job at this clothing store, and I got promoted 2 weeks in because I was their top salesman. And I was excited because I was working at a bar and grill 50 to 60 hours a week, not getting paid much. And now I had a chance to advance my career and finally put that in the past of, being a convicted felon. So I was excited, I was like, wow, I just got this job 2 weeks in, I get promoted into management on the sales team and everything. Things are going great. And then I put in my 2 weeks at this bar and grill because I had a better job now. And 2 days after that, they're like, yeah, Mr. Babcock, you're a convicted felon. You got to kick rocks. Mm. And I was just like, man, as soon as I thought, I had all this hope and everything going for me and excited, I'm like, I'm putting everything behind me. And then boom, just like that, now I'm jobless and I'm back to square one. And it seems like my past is just keeps coming back to haunt me, and there's no way that I can move forward. So instead of just taking that and moving forward and searching for other opportunity, I decided to throw a pity party for myself. And I started partying heavily, drinking heavily, became an alcoholic, full-blown, just as soon as I wake up at like 10 in the morning when I rolled out of bed from being blackout drunk the night before, started drinking all day and partying into the night. It was a complete mess. And this went on for a few months. And then my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, she got pregnant. And I was like, are you kidding me? I can't even get a job right now. All this stuff's going on. Like, what's next? And then the next thing was, well, it's twins. And I'm like, it was one thing after another. And I still didn't have no chief aim, no purpose drive for me. I felt empty because I didn't have, something that I felt, really ambitious and passionate about. And I ended up getting a DWI and getting sent back to prison for 8 months. And that was 20 days before my twin sons were born. And man, I felt big enough to sit on a penny and swing my feet from it. It was the worst I've ever felt. You know, not only am I missing the birth of my own children, but I'm leaving my wife out there by herself, you know, to bring these children into the world on her own. So, you know, I felt less of a man. I felt like nothing. And at the same time, though, you know, I woke up, you know, in Ferguson Police Department jail from a blackout drunk on the metal bunk. There was no mattress on there. And I'm like, where am I? You know, and I realized this, and I'm like, you know, at the same time, as bad as that was, it was also one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because that was my rock bottom. That was the pain threshold that I couldn't take anymore. And I said to myself, you know, I don't care what has to happen or what I have to do. I'm going to get out, and I'm going to be a responsible father, and I'm going to live a successful and happy life. And I made that resolve right there in that jail cell. And I went on for about the next 8 months in prison, and I finally got to come home. And when I came home, man, I couldn't find a job anywhere. You know, nobody was hiring a convicted felon, and I'm filling out 5 to 20 applications a day, 7 days a week, yielding nothing, zero results. But I had made that decision that I didn't care what happened. I was gonna make it happen. But at the same time, I'm feeling desperate. I'm feeling inadequate because I can't even provide for my family, and I'm supposed to be the man of the family. And just, man, I was hungry. And this went on for about a month and a half. Then I got introduced to a business opportunity. It was network marketing, which I did for about 2 years. And at the time, I didn't even know what network marketing was, so you couldn't scare me off with the word pyramid scheme. All I knew was it was an opportunity to, you know, be able to provide for my family, and I jumped on it. And within the first 6 months,
before we delve into that change, because I try to make it a bit into increments of like mindset shifts. I know some people who end up like in prison, or when shit hits the fan, it can even hit the fan a bit harder, like what happened with you. And then you get rejected because not a lot of people want to hire you because you get that label of being a prisoner. Just before you started network marketing in business, how difficult was it for you to not go back to your old friends and old behavior or environments that would draw you back to the previous behavior? Because there's a lot of people who revert back and go to prison out, and find it hard to escape that environment and that social circle.
Yeah, definitely. So the first time I came home from prison, it was really hard, you know, and I easily fell back into it because I didn't have that purpose, that meaning of life driving me. But this time, once I you know, woke up and realized that I was going to miss my children being born, it was a wrap. I made a resolve right then and there that I wasn't going back. Yes, it was extremely, you know, hard, you know, overcoming those odds, you know, that I did to myself. But there was no turning back to the old lifestyle. I made that decision. And at that point, my desire to change became stronger than my desire to stay the same.
Did you feel back then, I can't do this anymore? Instead of like, this happens to me, this happens for me. Wasn't there a stage when you said like, why does this has to happen? And this always happened. And there was like no responsibility from your part that it happened.
Yeah, definitely. So like, it's so powerful, those types of questions. I used to ask those type of questions like, why does this always happen to me? Mm-hmm. Instead, now, like when I'm faced with situations, I'm asking, how can I overcome this? You know, like the shift in that, the empowerment questions versus, you know, the questions that are just going to doom you to failure. And yeah, I did ask those a lot. And by now I started coming into this growth mindset, I guess you would call it. Before I would blame all the outside external factors, you know, I'd blame those for my problems instead of taking the responsibility myself.
Yeah, sometimes the universe conspires in a way to show you the path, but a lot of times they have to show you it repeatedly before you give up the stubbornness and say like, maybe this shows me something that I can work on, because I keep on hitting my head against the wall, and it's not the wall that's hitting me, it's me hitting the wall. So something must go wrong here. So I might as well take a look at, why do I keep hitting these walls?
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely. It's funny. Like you said, the universe has a funny way of teaching you lessons sometimes.
So you went into network marketing. Was it something purposely that you chose, or was it like, they're all rejecting me, so I might as well just start with network marketing?
It's a funny story, actually. So I I'm looking for a job left and right, just looking for any opportunity. And I'm also working out at the gym at Club Fitness in my area. And, I was hardcore on that, because that was keeping me in a positive mindset, and giving me something to look forward to each day as I'm getting rejected over and over and over and over again. And I was posting pictures on Instagram, the little hashtags or whatever with, in the workout stuff, because I was heavily into that. And a guy reached out to me on Instagram and asked me if I wanted to try some drink. And I'm like, who the hell are you and what the hell is this drink, right? And it turned out, though, that he was actually lived in my area. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. And my response back was like, yeah, sure, I'll try. Is there some type of opportunity in it? Like, what is this? I started asking questions and realized that there was that. He's like, yeah, I was just trying to get you, let you try it, but there's definitely opportunity. And I went up and met with him, and in his upline, his mentor, and it was a perfect fit for me at the time because, hey, I wasn't getting anything else, and I didn't even know. Even after I started, I still didn't even know what network marketing was until I started talking about it with my friends, and then they're like, oh, that's a pyramid scheme. I'm like, well, call it what you want, man. I'm trying to make things happen and feed my family.
And you did that for 2 years. And what kind of things did you learn about yourself and business through network marketing? And
Yeah. So I'm forever grateful for the industry because it was my introduction to the whole personal development. It opened up my eyes to a whole new world. And that's where my personal growth really started to take off, was in network marketing. I never read books growing up. I used to always say, I was a video game type guy or whatever. And my mentor was almost like, hey, she'd send me books because I was breaking ranks and I was climbing up in the company. And she was sending me books. And so I was like, hey, did you read that book I sent you? I'm like, no, I'm building my business. I got twin sons that I'm taking care of, and my wife, and other relationships I'm trying to juggle. I don't have time to read. And finally, eventually she asked me, I said the same thing. She's like, Zach, if you mean to tell me you don't have 5 minutes to read a book today, that's it. I'm challenging you. Don't have 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, okay. I'm going to go ahead and start reading. And once I started reading, it went from like 5 minutes a day to like 10 minutes a day. And then got it all the way up to like 30 minutes to an hour a day, every single day consistently. And that's when it started like, wow, and another, that opened up like a whole world of possibility, obviously, because, you can get into the minds of the great people before us that have achieved the type of success that we're after, are certain things in their life that we want. But my mentor in there, I would see all these top earners, and they got the financial freedom and time freedom, whatever. And I was like, I want that, not, for specific reasons. I want to be able to take my wife out of these 2 jobs that she's working and be able to come home and spend it with our family. And so we can create more memories that really matter to us. And I asked my mentor, Ray, in there, and I said, how do you do this? He said, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. And I was like, man, it's so simple, but it's so true. And obviously he was a big Zig Ziglar fan, but I wasn't writing down my goals, and that's who started getting me to write down my goals. And once I started writing down my goals, man, it took on a whole entire new meaning, because and I'm not big on these studies and stuff, because, they test just a small amount of people, but every single study I looked at, you're like more than 80% likely to achieve your goals when you write them down versus when you don't. And once I started writing down my goals, obviously I had to learn, effective goal setting methods that work. But over time, I started crushing my goals just by writing them down and having a plan and something to aim for.
You said you started reading like 5 minutes, and you said like, I don't have time, I'm building my business. Now I'm of course being idealistic, right? If I would now be in prison, like God forbid I would think that I have so much time in prison. I could read so much books. I could think about my life. I could reflect. Not that you have to go in prison, but isn't there, like, it's probably your mindset, right? Because there must be a lot of time in prison that you could study some books or write things down or rethink your life. Or am I wrong with the schedules in prison and the time and what you're allowed?
Oh no, you're dead on. There's so much time that you can, have to do it. And I did spend a lot of it like working out, but I never was a book reader, so that never really drew my interest, which, I wish I would have, because I could have had a little head start. But I was always like in there either working out or selling sport tickets, you know, to make a little money on the side or whatever, or playing poker or whatever, you know, to hustle and make some money. But yeah, I could have definitely spent it wiser in there.
You weren't rapping back then, because I heard you were also rapping, and I also had a rap career of like 16 years, you know, and battling and freestyling.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's crazy. We had a lot of similarities there. Yeah, I gave up the rap and the rap career back in 2012. I haven't rapped since, and I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of funny. It's the first time I said this publicly, but I still have like a desire for. I still think about it sometimes. Like, man, I just want to get back up there one more time, you know, or something. So you never know. There might be something to come in the future.
I have the same thing. I'm like, sometimes maybe I should make like a rap video about procrastination or about productivity or battling procrastination. I'm just battling and rhyming against a guy named Procrastination or something.
Hey, that'd be unique, man, because you don't see it out there. You just see all the rap stuff they're talking about, you know, they're in the club and doing whatever, you know, and that'd be pretty unique though.
So you were building your goals, and you were having a mentor. How did you set the right goals, or where did you start with your goals?
So, you know, I've developed a process since then, and that's kind of moving on to like the next phase of everything. Cause I got to the point in network marketing where I was setting goals. I was having like success, not like crazy success, but I had built up like almost a $2,000 a month income. That isn't huge, but for a guy like me, I was making more than minimum wage. I was able to provide for a family versus before I couldn't even find a job. So it was cool, but I wasn't getting fulfillment, and I kind of lost my passion for network marketing. It's a great industry, but it wasn't my calling in life. And it wasn't what I was really called to do, but it was a vehicle for me to really find myself, is what I look back, you know, hindsight. And, you know, I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. I wasn't happy. And this was something that I struggled to pull a trigger with. You know, usually I'm the type of guy that it doesn't take me long to make a decision. I just jump off the cliff and roll and grow wings on the way down. But it was like, it's kind of, you know, it's hard stepping out the fear of the unknown, walking away from my security net of where I have an income coming in versus stepping out into coaching where I know nothing about, but it's something that really, really excites me. And I believe it's my calling, and I know I can help people that way. And it took a while, but I finally made the jump in the beginning, at the very end of 2016 in December. I said, all right, I'm going to start this year off brand new. And I hate New Year's resolutions because everybody does that New Year, New Me stuff starting out. But anyways, it was just at the time I was going through it, and I finally made that jump. And I guess to go to your question, where you start, where I build that foundation, is finding who it is that you're creating your legacy. You know, you got to create that foundation, that life compass that's going to guide you throughout the rest of your life. Yeah, you can make all kinds of goals, but if you don't have that chief aim that you're going for, those goals are meaningless. So I always try to look at the end result. And I read this book, pretty sure you've read it too, or at least heard about it, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about in there. It was something that really made an impact on chapter 2. And he says, visualize your funeral. You know, what would you want your family, friends, and coworkers to say about your character, contributions, and achievement in life? And so that really helped me kind of hone in where I'm putting things into perspective. Like, you know, what do I want? What do I want my legacy to be? Because for me, you know, everybody has specific motivations that drive them in life. Yes, I am motivated by money, but that's not my number one motivator. Not by far. My number one motivator is my legacy. I want people to remember me after I'm gone as someone that actually contribute to the world and help, you know, better those around them. That's what drove me the most. So that was the key for me to getting started with the whole goal setting with the process.
Yeah, because it was also in the Temple of Delphi, like know thyself. We want to know ourselves, because then we can set goals, but it's by taking action related with goals that we get to know ourselves. So what compass could people use to go in a direction that brings them closer to the goal? Because maybe they don't know yet what I want, but I also don't know yet what I want to do, but I stay stuck here into doing nothing and not getting to know myself better. So where should I start when I want to set out on my journey? Or what questions could I ask myself to simplify, specify, and get moving?
I always like to look at it like, what are you passionate about? And the ways you can figure out, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you fear being judged about? Because if you fear being judged doing a specific thing, that means you're more than likely passionate about doing that. That means you care enough about other people's opinions that you're passionate about doing it. Maybe what is something that you do that you just completely lose track of time? Like where you doing like, wow, that time just went by so fast. And what do you honestly love doing? And yeah, it's kind of cliche, but a lot of cliches are true. But we only have one life to live, so why not spend it doing stuff that makes you happy? Because at the end of the day, you should live every single moment of your life being happy, and you can do that. And obviously, there's no such thing as a wrong emotion. Anger is a really good emotion. It's an action signal. It's telling you, that you're obviously frustrated. And you can use that to propel you to hit your dream, or to reach your goal and everything. But to find that passion, what it is that makes you happy, that's what's going to drive you. And then also building that why is it important that you make it happen? Because that why is going to get you through those times when you're running into that brick wall over and over again, and you're going to sit there and figure it out.
You talked a bit about that you don't like New Year resolutions, but you set out a New Year resolution and you said, like, I want to make an impact. I want to make money, but I also want to make a bigger impact. Could you guide us a bit through your process of what goal you set then in that year and how you maybe make it into incremental steps, or how you divided it? What was your focus then and specific goal that you said, okay, I'm going to work around this team or this focus?
Yeah. So like I said, when I got into this, the big thing was I didn't know how to be a coach or how to do that, but I knew that was something that I really wanted to do. So, I set out these goals, and it's so funny because I didn't hit any of them, but I was like, all right, have like 100,000 YouTube subscribers and grow my email list to 100,000, all this stuff, and didn't even get close to it. But the fact that I set those goals and started making progress to them was key. But along that way, along doing that and constantly soaking up, not too many times, and I got stuck in this myself, analysis paralysis, where you're just constantly absorbing the information, but you're not taking action. So I got into the part where I was like, all right, I'm going to find stuff that I feel like is really useful information, and I'm going to apply it right away. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm going to figure out another approach, but I'm going to keep changing my approach, but not the goal, until I find success. And eventually, I came across Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, and oh my God, dude, like that's what helped me get to, like, if I can, it's crazy because I've had one-on-one coaching from other people and I've been to other events and I've never even met Russell Brunson, but just his book alone, Expert Secrets and .com Secrets, was better than any coaching or program I've ever been in, because he's that good. And that kind of, helped me hone in on things. And so then I started setting these goals now where I take the goal, I had like the end result goal, not the end result goal, but like, yeah, we'll call them end result goals. Like, all right, I'm going to hit a certain specific number, or in my business, I'm going to have 1,000 email subscribers. All right. And then I take that goal, and this is really key. I break it down into bite-sized chunks, and how you do it, there's a bunch of different ways. I like to do it, focus on the 80-20 rule, obviously, where you take what are the top 20% of activities that produce 80% of the results and focus on those. I also like to give myself shorter deadlines, like really, really, really short deadlines, because it's this human nature. Whenever we got all this time to do something, we'll procrastinate and do whatever. But when it gets close to making it happen, we'll go hurry up and make it happen. So when I give myself a bunch of shorter deadlines, I'm more productive and more efficient and more effective all the way around. And also, I always, sometimes you don't know what the next steps are. So I'll ask myself empowering questions like, I say, what's the next best step that I can take? And I ask it with emotional intensity. I'll think about it, brainstorm, draw it all out on the whiteboard. But I'm constantly asking myself, what is the next best thing I can do that will move me closer to my goal? And once you get all that down, like, I like to map out an action plan. Like, all right, here's all the milestones I'm going to need to hit this 1,000 subscribers on my email list. Here's all the resources I'm going to need. Here's all the tools that I'll need. I like to map all that out, but not get stuck there. I map all that out, and then boom, I got it. All right, so what are my next steps if I have this action plan? And I try things, and if certain things don't work, constantly switch up the approach, but not the goal, until I figure out the things that do work. And eventually you'll by breaking it down that way, you're chipping at the goal every single day and making progress bit by bit by bit.
Are you an advocate of setting an ambitious goal and then going for it and, stretching your limits and going beyond your comfort zone? Or are you somebody who is an advocate of setting small goals, reaching them and getting that success experience going and then moving on to the next step and goal?
Great question, because we skipped that. So the process that I teach, I'm definitely an advocate of big goals. And so the first thing is I like to, find that legacy, that end result, what are my life values that I'm going to be driven by, and having that life compass is that first step. Second step, take whatever those goals and stuff that I had and just blowing it out the water, go for it all, because, we only have one life. I'd rather be on my deathbed and failed at my goals, but knowing that I gave it everything that I absolutely had and went for everything that my heart desired, versus being sitting on my deathbed and saying, what if I would have tried? I regret not trying. I couldn't live with myself if I knew that I left something out on the table, that I didn't give it my all. So definitely. And then that third step, that's when I go and take those big, crazy, ambitious goals and I make the action plan and break it down all the way to the next step. And what that helps me do is get rid of that feeling overwhelmed, because when when you have those crazy big goals, they're awesome and they do drive you and they give you that extra fire and stuff, but they can be overwhelming. But when you break it down to the next steps and you're constantly making progress, it eliminates that feelings of being overwhelmed.
It's kind of ironic that once you are really dependent on other people and you see that what you do has an impact on other people, like you with your family and with the twins that you were going to get, that you finally discovered like what your passion was and what you are passionate about.
Yeah, man, definitely. It's crazy too, because it started just being passionate about being a father, and getting back home and just being there and not missing that out, because that's what drives me the most. I love that connection that I have with my children and with my wife and everything. But as it happened, as I made that shift to, I guess, being more about someone else besides myself, like I cared more about their well-being and them having a father in their life, because I didn't have a father growing up. It also kind of, led me towards a better path. And I started finding those other things that I was passionate about. I was just trying to, find a job just so I could support them. And that led me, I couldn't find the job, and it led me to finding, a true outlet where I can really express myself and find fulfillment in life.
It's interesting that you also say because you had no father and then you maybe want to be the father for your children that you actually never had. Do you also maybe have an explanation why I think it's the second biggest predictor of men being in prison, that they're like raised in a fatherless home? Do you know why it's so important to have a father or a father figure, and that sometimes makes men go astray and
Yes, so I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, so I going back all the way to when I was 7 years old, my father died. Ever since then, like I had like a big problem with wanting to be accepted by other people. And I wanted to be liked by everyone. And obviously, people have different beliefs and they're not going to like you because, no matter how good of a person you are, there's always going to be someone with a different belief set that just doesn't, match well with you. And so when I didn't, and I wanted to be, I looked up to all these, different role models that just weren't really good role models, because I didn't have that father figure in my life. And anytime that somebody didn't like me or rejected me and stuff, I may have not shown it externally, but internally, it hurt. And it led to, depression, I guess you would say. I was depressed. I was just like, I just wasn't getting fulfillment because I was looking for it in the wrong places. And eventually, that led to the drug addiction that I went through for a number of years. And then eventually that went to prison. And I guess it all stems from, it's crazy because, you can look at, I think Tony Robbins talks about it. He's talking about two kids that grew up in a bad home where the dad was super abusive, and one grows up to be just like his dad, and the other one grows up in his super successful family and all that. And the reporter goes back and asks him, how did you end up like this? And they both said how could I not end up like this? But they both were in the same exact situation, yet one took different ways. So that's why I say I can't really speak for everybody else. But for me, it was the fact of, I guess, not having that father figure and wanting to be accepted by everybody else. And until I was able to, realize that, hey, I don't need other people's acceptance to feel happy with myself, then I, truly started to find happiness in my life.
How important was your girlfriend and your wife during all that period? Because you were rejected by so many people and for jobs, and then getting back at prison. So um, what is something she taught you, or what is something she uh, gave you during all that period?
Yeah. So her and my mother both, man, like, I don't know how I would have been without them. Maybe I still might have ended up the same and turning my life around, but maybe I wouldn't. Who knows? You can never really tell. But having that support there, having, those two that really, had my back even when no one else did and when I needed them the most, meant the world, because being in prison, it's like, it's hard to explain for somebody that's never been there, but it's not like crazy like you see, like, oh my God, people are getting shanked left and right or whatever. It's not crazy like that, but it's lonely, and it's like you don't have no one there. You're in there with mainly scumbags. I mean, it is what it is. There is some good people in there, but 90%, I'd say more than that, are people that are just don't care about other people, and they're looking to get over any way they can.
Yeah, they say most people become a criminal in prison.
Yeah, it is, because you get institutionalized is what they call it. You get stuck in that mindset, and you're surrounded by, just negativity all the time. People complaining about every single thing under the sun and just whatever. But so having them there though, and coming up and visiting me, answering my phone calls, putting a little bit of money on my books, all that, it showed me that I still have people out there that care about me and that want to see me overcome this. So it was huge.
Yeah, because you mentioned your mentor and you mentioned your girlfriend or wife back then. Like, why don't you start reading books? So is that something that for anybody who was in prison, or young guys who come out of prison, what are some things that could really help them? Like, one thing maybe is, as you mentioned now, just get some support from some people, or maybe government or other people should invest in helping these people, find the right path and using this negative experience to take a different path in life. What is some other advice or things you think is useful when somebody goes out of prison and want to find a focus or a new goal in life?
And this is something that I am extremely passionate about, because I feel like the resources that are provided here are just, I feel like, for one, like, welfare and all that stuff, I feel like that's just like a handout. And a lot of people don't deserve that. They're just abusing that power.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, the resources that someone could actually need aren't provided. And that's something that's one of my chief aims. Like, I want to, after I get my business rocking the way I do, I want to start up my own nonprofit organization. Don't even want to make any money off it, but I want to provide those types of resources that are going to help not everyone coming out of prison, but the people coming out of prison or coming out of addiction that actually want to help themselves and that just could use those resources, because there's a lot of people that are going to get out and abuse it. I don't want to deal with those types of people. But one thing that I could tell, anybody coming out there is that it's going to be rough. It's going to be extremely hard to find any type of job. You're going to have all these pressures, from your old crowd that you used to hang out with trying to pull you back in. It's gonna seem like there's no light at the end of the tunnel at sometimes, but you have to find that why is it that you have to stay out this time? What is it that you have to do? That it's a must. It's no longer you should do this. Like, it's a must. You have to make this happen. Develop that strong desire of why you need to make this happen, and let that be a driving factor, and figure out what it is that excites you the most, because more than likely your best route is to become an entrepreneur coming out of prison. Just flat out. But not everybody's an entrepreneur, and not everybody's, that's not every single person,
because that is something that is still under your control, and you could still prove yourself without being dependent on your bad resume.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's your best route you have coming out of prison. So, I mean, but the thing that sucks about it is that not everybody is built to be an entrepreneur. It's just not their calling in life. So it's hard to say, like, I don't know, because I'm not the other person. I don't know how to tell people that aren't entrepreneurs what they should do. Obviously, you're going to have to find what it is that you love doing most in life and pursue that route, because I can help you, when it comes to goal setting, figuring out what your purpose is. But for others that are the entrepreneurs, man, get started right away. Get started in network marketing, a cheap, low end, or affiliate marketing, something that is so low cost that you can start to build an income on, and find your passion and what it is that you want to do for the rest of your life in the process.
Mm-hmm. Is it also, I want to put myself in the mind of people who leave prison, should they also just in the beginning accept any job that they can, like flicking burgers or like baking pizzas and just making, surviving and whatever, but still like after the hours, like finding a skill maybe or a passion that they could build upon, and maybe be a bit patient? I mean, it's miserable working there, but at least it's something.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that could be your motivation, flipping those burgers every day. You're like, oh, I hate this. I can't wait to get out, that definitely, because you got to do what you got to do. You got to make things work. And you might, more than likely, I mean, in my business, I'm pretty sure you've experienced this too. You have to start somewhere, and it might not be where you want to start at, but you have to work your way up to where you want to go. So yeah, man, take whatever you can get and let it, if it's something you hate doing, let that be a good driving motivational factor, instead of making that cripple you and hold you back and make you resentful. Let that drive you to find what it is that you're really after.
Yeah, and this comes also back to goal setting, but also about productivity. Then you really have an incentive to use your time wisely, because just as you said before, if you're going to have too much time, maybe you're going to squander time because you don't value time. So some people jump to be an entrepreneur too fast, and they haven't been through the process of like ups and downs or not knowing what they're good at. And then they have that financial pressure. People are looking at them funny, like, what are you doing? You gave up your job, or you're going to become an entrepreneur. So it's difficult. So it's good sometimes to work at a job that you don't want. You're going to value your time, and then really make use of your time, really make use of your weekend, and make a calculated jump. And sometimes that can be better than taking the immediate jump and then burning your ass because you just jump too quickly and you have nothing to fall back upon.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. And it's really, really awesome you said it, because I had to sit there and look at it from that lens, because, I didn't take that route. I was in the position where I couldn't even get a job, and then boom, luckily, my girlfriend and she's my wife now, but my girlfriend at the time and my mother believed in me to give me that startup to get going, which is, $100 a month for a few months to get it rolling. But luckily they believed in me. Some people might not have that. You know what I mean? And you made a good point there. So, you might have to get under the table paying job or whatever it is, like construction or whatever, a bar and grill, making tips, whatever you can do to produce some type of income, but use that wisely. Obviously, you're going to have to pay your bills and all that stuff. If fine, we all have, bill money, and then we all have expendable income. And,
Yeah, and
use that
it's also
expendable
like
income.
what you said about Russell Brunson. He's like, it's a good book, by the way. He condenses information of a lot of digital marketeers, like setting up funnels. But you also have to set up your own funnel, your own productivity funnel, let's say your own structure. And it's easy to do a job when somebody else tells you what to do, or the hours, and it's structured. It's not easy to do, but it's structured in a prison, when to wake up, what the routine is. But if then like, oh, now you're going to do it all yourself, like, oh, when will I wake up? What will I focus on? How shall I set priorities? What shall I focus on in this? If you're going to be an entrepreneur, business-wise or marketing-wise, because it's so much, where am I going to
Yeah.
begin? So it's not so easy to structure your life then and find a way and be your own boss and set up systems.
Yeah, it isn't. And I guess the best thing you could do in that circumstances is get really, really good at setting goals. Cause I feel like that's what I'm so passionate about, is goal setting, because that's how I structure my whole entire life. That's how I get things done. That's how I was able to get from nothing, coming out of prison with nothing, to where I'm at now in my business. Like, it's all because of how I'm able to set goals and structure my time and go after them and break them down effectively. And if you can master that, you could take these principles and apply it to whatever business or whatever career, whatever adventure that you're on, and have success with that over time.
Yeah, because what you mentioned now is the meta skill, and the meta skill of a goal is a skill of setting goals. The meta skill of building habits is the skill of building habits. And once you have that meta skill, then you could use that skill on any kind of goal, any kind of habit you set. But that's actually the most important skill to cultivate.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
What are some misconceptions people have about goals or the achievement of goals?
Yeah. So a lot of people say like, oh, that, that doesn't work. I'm just better at acting on my intuition, which I don't think I've ever, I mean, I'm pretty sure I have, but I can't recall a time where I've acted on my gut and it came back to bite me. Usually my gut feeling is 100%, and I'm all for it. Act on your intuition. That's a strong feeling. That's a great guiding factor. But you pair that with goal setting, effective goal setting, an actual model of how to achieve your goals and make things happen. You just increase your productivity and your effectiveness by tenfold. Another thing I guess people would say is, they don't have the time to sit there and write down their goals. Well, look at it. All right, if somebody tells me that, I say, well, what you mean is you don't have time to be successful is what you really mean. Like if you don't have time to sit down and write down your goals every night before you go to bed and then check them off throughout the day, the next day, you don't have time to be successful, because it's proven again and again and again that people that actually write down their goals are like 80% more likely to achieve them than people that are not. 97% of the world does not write down their goals, and they end up working for the 3% that do. So if you really want to have happiness and fulfillment in your life, make some goals each day and go for it each and every day. So that's the best advice I can give to anybody.
Why don't they write it down? They say they don't have time, but what do you think is underneath?
They feel that their time could be spent doing instead of planning. They don't see the value in the actual planning. And so I think it's like, for people like you and I feel like it's our responsibility to help them see the value in actually writing down the goals.
Yeah, and the problem, you're also going to have this with people like, I set the goals, now they're just going to come to me like, it doesn't work. Like, yeah, but the goals is not the end point. Goals are the starting point. Now you're going to work towards your goals. It's not suddenly going to appear, like it's not that it doesn't work. It's that you don't work. And that's why you don't achieve it, like it's not, oh, now it's all done,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, you hit that right on the nose right there. Setting a goal, that's just taking your thoughts and making it real, writing it down on paper. Now you have something to actually aim for, and it sets off those conscious and unconscious forces that pull you towards your goals. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to put in work. Action is the name of the game. And if you're not going to take action, if you're not going to step outside of your comfort zone, then you're not going to get your dreams. And yet there's ways to get past your fears. There's a simple process to eliminate your fears, eliminate the procrastination, eliminate, if you're a perfectionist, all that's just excuses. I understand it's barriers, and those are very real things. And I've dealt with those myself and had, didn't take action on many of my goals for a big part of my life, but that all can be removed. But it has to start with setting those goals and taking that action.
Yeah, man. And whether if you're a procrastinator or whether you're a perfectionist or whether you want to finish something, just start.
Plain and simple.
There is no, it's not that it will make it easier. It's just that it will make it happen and that you get moving, like this is maybe a cliche, but a cliche that is like true, like just start, like, hey, when will I finish this? Just start. I should have started earlier. Just start. Like,
the only reason why people procrastinate, every single decision that everybody makes is based off of, I'm pretty sure you already know this, it's based off of two things, our desire to gain pleasure and our fear, our need to avoid pain. Those two things are our desire to gain pleasure and our need to avoid pain. So procrastination, the only reason why anybody would procrastinate on anything is because they link too much pain to doing it now, and they link too much pleasure to putting it off to later. So the key then is to use these two pillars in every single aspect of our lives and link that pain and pleasure appropriately. Most people link the pain and pleasure inappropriately for the short term. They think they have a short term focus instead of a long term. The key is to set up for the long term. Link so much pleasure to taking action now, and link so much pain to putting it off. And obviously with most people, the need to avoid pain is stronger than the desire to gain pleasure. So you might want to use that pain to actually help you to take action now instead of putting it off.
I think this is one of the reasons why I also have a lot of guests, and it also was the case with me, with you, with most of my guests, that when they hit rock bottom, so when the pain came from the outside by the impact that they had on other people, their life, then that seesaw, that emotional seesaw became so strong on the negative side that it flipped over and say there's more pain in staying this way than actually, trying something different and going for a change. I think that is sometimes why rock bottom is so important, because then that seesaw just flips and you feel like
Yeah.
I can't fall any lower anymore, and especially when there's other people involved, it's like it's not about me anymore. So you also see the effects of your bad behavior not reflected in your mind, but also it's affecting other people, and it's like, okay, man, I just can't stay this way anymore. It's time to do something different because I can't handle this anymore. Sometimes combined with depression or suicide, like, hey man, if this is going to stay this way, like I can't live like this anymore, which seems like a terrible thought, but it's also like, I can't live like this anymore. So it's time to change how I live.
Exactly. You just brought up a really, really great point, because that adversity, when I was in that, when I woke up back in prison and gonna miss my children being born, that's exactly what it was. That pain of not being able to be there for my family, and the pain that I associated with not being around my family. Like I was like, I can't do this. This is too painful. And I associated so much pain with drinking and doing all the things that I was doing in prison, that I made that decision right there. Hey, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm not coming back to this because I can't do that anymore. I associate so much pain. And so if you're going through these hard times and adversity, obviously it's hard to have a good outlook at it when things are just at the lowest that they can be, and it just seems like the world is crumbling down. But just know that if it doesn't kill you, it's not going to kill you, and it's making you stronger, and that's actually giving you strength of character to do great things later on in life. I mean, the days that broke me were the days that break me are the days that make me. I'm grateful for them. I wouldn't change a thing because it made me who I am today.
Yeah, but that's the man. I also went through the same process, but that takes some time. Like in the beginning, why did this had to happen? And it's only when you start moving and you started having a different focus and you started not changing your circumstances directly, but changing your stance towards circumstances, that you learn how to navigate circumstances in a meaningful way, that you can see that the circumstances that happened in the past had like a meaning or some potential in them. But your mindset was just not adapted to use them constructively. But now you realize that that had to happen to force you to do something now and change your life.
Amen. Yeah. At the time, it seems like it's not a good thing, but like you said, hindsight, looking back, you can see that. Another thing I want to share, man. So this is something that kind of relates to what we were just talking about. When I was in prison the first time, I wasn't on my personal growth journey at this time, but looking back, it's like, wow, I really was, though, even though I wasn't reading books and understanding these principles yet. It's crazy because I learned a lot of it through these hard times. But I was in prison for about 2 years. I was 21 years old, and I was 2 years into my stay, and I got sent to the hole, which the hole is like the prison inside of the prison. It's this
It wasn't the Hall of Fame, no. It was the Hall of Shame, yeah.
Yeah, nothing close to the Hall of Fame. But yeah, man, it's just like a real dark place. It's you're in an 8x10 cell. It means you walk 3 feet this way and turn around, walk 3 feet the next. Real dirty down there. You have very little, if any, human interaction, and you get food sent to you through a chuck hole 3 times a day, and you get 3 showers a week. It's horrible. And I was down there for 2 months. I got sent down there for 2 months because I had gotten a bunch of tattoo violations. Being a knucklehead, I was 21 years old at the time. And 2 weeks into my 2 month stay in the hole, the guards come and bang on my door. Mr. Babcock, cuff up. I'm like, for what? And at the time I'm a
Mhm.
knucklehead and everything.
Mhm.
Like the captain wants to speak to you, and I'm thinking in my mind, the captain wants to speak to me. Somebody must have told on me about something I was doing on the yard, or they're trying to get me to tell on somebody else. I don't have anything to say, man.
Mhm.
Y'all can kick rocks or whatever. That was my mindset at the
Mhm.
time. So they take me back to the captain's office. He's like, Mr. Babcock, sit down. I'm like, I ain't got nothing to say. He's like, Mr. Babcock, how long you been locked up? And I'm like, 2 years. And he's like, well, when you come back to the captain's office, it's nothing good, right? And I was like, I don't care. I ain't got nothing to say, man. I don't care. You got me for 2 more months, and then you got to put me back on the yard, man. You're wasting your time. And he's like, we just got a call over the weekend. Your sister passed away, and your mother found her in the bathroom. I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, it like my vision just all of a sudden started blacking out, like circle came down to nothing. And then just, it was just shock. And then just tears that started flooding out of my eyes. And I'm like, I didn't expect my sister, to be dead. That was the last thing I was thinking. I was thinking,
Mhm.
something else. And, I asked them, they gave me a 30-second phone call, 30 seconds to my mom. And I got on the call for her, and she's just bawling her eyes out. We can't even really get a conversation because we're both crying and stuff. And, after that, after we hung up, I asked him to put me in a cell by myself because I didn't want to be in there with my cellmate.
Mhm.
And for the next 3 days, I'm just bawling my eyes out. I'm in, no one in there. So all I'm going through my mind is all the memories I had with my sister, all the bad things I've ever done to her and stuff just eating at me. And on that third day, I said, there's got to be something else, better than this. I'm obviously still here for a reason. I don't know what that is, but I got to find it. And I started asking myself, I didn't know what I was even doing at the time, but I was asking myself empowering questions like, I'm stuck in a hole in an 8x10 cell. There's absolutely nothing I can do to get out, but what can I do right now that'll make me happy? That was the exact question I asked. And when I asked myself that question, and I was asking it with emotional intensity because I was searching for anything. I was at a real low point. And I was like, I developed this habit. Each day I had a set routine. I'm stuck in a cell 24/7, so there's not much to do. And every day I'd wake up, eat breakfast, and then I'd read my book for a few
Mhm.
hours. And this is like, I don't even like reading, at this point in time in my life. And we got old Western books or the Bible and stuff.
Mhm.
And I chose to read the Bible because I couldn't read all the other books.
Mhm.
It just put me to sleep. And I'm not a big spiritual or Bible thumper or anything, but I am spiritual. But anyways, I'd read my book, and then lunch would come around. They serve lunch, and after lunch, I would clean my cell. And what I did is we had two bathing towels. One, two bathing towels to take a shower 3 times a week. And I took one of them and ripped it up into a bunch of small mini rags. And I took this one rag and I scrubbed my wall with it. Take another rag, scrub my sink with it. Another one for my toilet.
Mhm.
Then I get down on my knees and sweep the concrete floor with my bare hands. Gather up all the little dust bunnies into a little pile. Take some toilet paper, wad it up, get it damp, and then grab all the dust bunnies up and flush it down the toilet. After that, I take my final rag, get it nice and soapy, and wring it out on my floor and scrub the floor until it's squeaky clean. And afterwards, I felt really good because I did something. I was living in a clean environment, and I felt good about myself. And immediately after that, I did a bunch of workouts. You couldn't do much, but I did push-ups, dips off the back of the bunk, burpees, anything you could do calisthenic-wise, body weight movement in an 8x10 cell. And after that, I would feel great because I just released natural endorphins in my
Mhm.
body, and I was doing something to better my health. And and I had a bunch of other routines for the rest of the day, but those were like key parts, writing letters, all that stuff. And by developing this routine, I had habits that I was doing each and every day that empowered me, that made me feel good about what I was doing. I was taking care of my health, living in a clean environment, doing something, and it gave me hope in a really, really dark time in my life.
Yeah, that is what transforming chaos into order is about cleaning your room and having some structure that at least make you navigate some things and says like, at least I can take some responsibility for this. It looks a bit better. I feel a bit better. I took some responsibility and control of my life, maybe in little meaningful ways, but it looks a bit better now, you know? you mentioned I asked myself the question with emotional intensity. You already said it like 2 times. How important is it that you make that goal emotionally compelling, or these questions emotionally compelling?
Extremely important, because anybody can ask themselves, all right, what's the next thing to do? Or what can I do that's going to move me closer to my goal? But if you don't have emotional intensity, if you're not like seriously searching for it, it means so much. Like, what can I do that's going to bring me closer to my goal? If you're not emotionally connected, and you have to, more than likely, you're going to have to ask yourself this over and over and over again. But you'll find that answer, because the way our brain works, if I ask you the question, you're going to immediately search for the answer. Wouldn't you agree? Like,
Mm-hmm.
whether you said yes or no, you're going to say one or the other. You're going to look for the answer. That's just how our brains are engineered. So asking yourself questions, it shifts your focus. That's how you can control that focus. And asking it with emotional intensity, you're shifting your focus from, instead of saying, why does this always happen to me? That's focusing on the problem. And your brain's going to look for reasons of why this always happens to you. But if you say, how can I overcome this? You're shifting that focus to the solution, and you're going to start looking for solutions and different answers to figure that out.
Yeah, basically thinking is talking to yourself. And if you keep on talking to yourself in a certain way, it becomes a story, when you're watching that movie in your mind. And you can have a prison in your mind in your case, or you can have a prison break and an outbreak in in your position, that you could actually free yourself and take charge, uh, and not let the inmates run the insane asylum. With some people, they're like ruminating all the time, or why does it happen? And something can happen once, then it's let's say an incident, 2 times a coincidence. But if something keeps happening, then it kind of becomes like a pattern, and then you could ask the question, what is actually the constant thing here? Well, me, my perception, like how I handle things, like how I move forward after something. And if there are some things that keep on happening, there's a big chance that at least some part is through your responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe one of the things that shapes our life the most is in those moments of adversity, and in those trying times. One of the best things you can do is ask yourself these empowering questions, because that's going to shape a big part of your life. If you're in a crazy situation where it's just like, oh my God, it hits you, and it's hurtful, and it's just trying, and you ask yourself, why does this always happen for me? It's going to bring more of that in your life. But if you figure out ways to ask yourself, those empowering questions, and you overcome it, that's going to shape a huge part of your life, is how you deal with adversity.
You mentioned the routines that you had in your prison cell. What are some productivity routines, or morning or evening routines, or things that you do consistently that you need or choose to do to have a fulfilling and productive day?
Absolutely. So I end every night with, or end every day, whatever time, with, I never go to bed without setting the goals for the next day. It's like, it just can't happen. I think Jim Rohn says that if you don't plan out the next day, you wasted that day. You got to wake up already know what you're going to do. So I had that in place, but I have a morning routine. A lot of people talk about it, and I used to think, whatever, it's just a hyped up thing. But man, waking up earlier waking up, you don't have to be this extreme, but getting up at 4:30 a.m. And running first thing when you get up, then taking some time to read some books, and then taking some time to meditate. And I like to meditate. It really helps me, stay in the now. And it's something I struggle with, but the more you do it, the better you get. That, and then after you take the meditation, then I like to knock out the first big to do on my goals. The first big thing, I start working on that, and then my kids eventually get up, and after they get up, they take over. But getting that done in the morning, getting some me time before my kids wake up, because they're just freaking crazy. But getting some me time though, and getting that done, it helps put the day in perspective, and it primes me. I already got a little workout in. I fed my mind through reading. I fed my mind in spirit even more by meditating, and then I started working on the number one goal. That really helps out. And then I, get my kids ready. We get them something to eat, get them all ready, and take them off to daycare. Then I come back and I grind, and I got the rest of my goals to do. That's my productivity hack. But there's no set way of doing it. Everybody has their own routine, but I feel like having a morning routine in place that gives you time for you first thing in the morning, without any, your kids or your spouse or whatever. I feel like that's so powerful.
Is there, at the end of the evening, you set like the goals? Do you limit yourself to this amount of goals, or do you put it down in tasks and prioritize them? Do you use a certain planner or a goal setting sheet or guide or?
Yeah. Yeah, so I set my goals with my planner, and I prioritize, what's the number one priorities, and I set those goals, and then I'll set a bunch of other ones, but I'll circle the priorities. I write those down first. This is what needs to be done first. This is the most important thing I could do tomorrow. And then I get those down and circle those, and everything else after that is just extra bonuses. Sometimes I don't even get all my priorities done because I work on one goal at a time. It's so important to do just one, because I used to be all over the place. I do a little bit here and there. You never get anything done. But if you focus on one thing at a time and give it all your energy and block out all the distractions, not only do you do a better job at doing it, but you'll be more efficient job as well. And I just focus on one thing at a time, and I go through the list and knock it out. Some days I'll not even get one thing done because I've been working on that project or whatever, but I made progress within it. And some days I'll knock out everything and then don't have nothing else on my list, so it's just, I'm with you though on that. Prioritizing is very huge.
I'm also big on habits. Are there certain daily or weekly habits that you do or that you implemented that are beneficial for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're creatures of habit. Motivation, that's crap that comes and goes. But habits, motivation, if you have a strong why, doesn't come, like, because there'll be days where you don't want to do it, but if you have a strong enough why, that pushes you. But habits, so of course, like, setting goals is a habit. Working out each and every single day is like a habit. Taking time each day to put my phone up and spend time with my kids is another habit that I do. A habit each week to take time to spend with my wife is another one, because it's big to take a step back from the grind. Because I love grinding. I love working on my dreams and my goals. It's what excites me. But I have to take myself away to balance my life out. But I notice when I do that, I come back and I'm even more effective when I take those breaks.
Yeah, I find that you have people who find difficulty starting, but then you find it difficult to stop, or you have people who, are the other way around, they find it difficult, finishers and starters. So some people, they just have to get moving and they can be productive. But on the other side, you have these type A personalities, hustling, addicted to the grind, that they can't stop. They want to complete everything. And, they're just like, oh, chill a bit. Like productivity is also not working, just as not working out can make you work out more the next day or can make you recover and gain some more mass.
Yeah, man, dude. Oh man, I struggled with this for so long, and I still do. But that's why I finally got into this morning routine stuff, because it's hard for me to go to bed at night because I'm like, I want to get this done. I want to keep moving. And the thing about it is, when you're so passionate about your setting your goals and dominating them, it's hard to stop. But the thing is that no matter how much work you put in that day, there's always going to be more to do. It's a journey. There's no like really end point. It's a journey we're going on with, because after we start getting close to the ends, then we start setting new goals and raising the standards. So it was so hard for me just to lay down at night and give it a break. But once I did start making it a priority to get in bed by a certain time and to get up every morning, my effectiveness has just been, the increase is crazy. I don't know exactly how much, but I just know that I get so much more done. I feel so much better too, now that I make that time to step away.
Yeah, strong boundaries is important to say, like, now it's done, or that's the end of the working day, or this is what I'm going to do, because but this and this, and I could do this. Like, yeah, but to have like a clear boundary, to have like, now it's done, because there's always going to be things that you're more interested in, especially if you're like in that cortisol, adrenaline, positive fight and flight mode, let's say, like that deep focus. But then you can like, whoa, what happened? I sacrificed my sleep. I'm close to a burnout. I keep going. Like, it's hard to stop. So it's good to stop yourself sometimes, especially if you keep going for a much too long time. Temporary hustle, intense effort is great, but you're not going to run a marathon like a sprinter. You can't keep this up. So temporary is good, but if again it becomes a lifestyle, for some people, Gary Vaynerchuk, it's a lifestyle, but if you have family and you have some friends and you have other activities, it's also important for other people to know that you still make time for them, and it's not only about the hustle or your work, I feel at least.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like you say, you're gonna be up at like 2 or 3, 4 in the morning with bloodshot eyes trying to work on stuff and barely getting anything done because your brain is warped at that point, but you're like, I gotta keep going. It's just yeah, take a break.
Yeah, and this headache and this zombie mode, and then when you're perfectionistic because you worked not with the 100% energy, you had some spelling errors, and your perfectionistic mind is like, I have to do this, and you're micromanaging things that are not important. I've been there, man. Still a struggle for
Yeah.
me also. Are there some habits that you're like interested in and you think, this could maybe be beneficial for me, or some habits that you tried in the past and that you along the way you drop, but that could be beneficial for you?
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot here with this one, but um yoga, man. I hear so much good stuff about it, but me being a guy, I'm like, I don't know, but I hear there's so much good things about yoga, and it has to do, also with
Mhm.
meditation and stuff. But yeah, I could definitely, I definitely want to start. You know what? Now that you mention it, I'm actually going to go ahead and do it, at least to say that I did it and try it, because I've been procrastinating on that one.
I'm going to hold you accountable for it, man. Before we delve into the
So,
concluding questions, is there anything that you would still like to share or talk about that you haven't been able to share?
man, I think we covered a lot, man. One of my main things is, finding that why. That's going to drive you more than anything in life, and I think we covered that pretty well.
Now, you already mentioned Expert Secrets and Dog-Tongue Secrets by Russell Branson. What are some other books, not only for entrepreneurs, but people who want to take responsibility, find their why, or that could be beneficial for them to get out of rock bottom and find meaning and find their path in life?
I'm pretty sure there's other books out there that are better than this one, or there may not be, but in my opinion, the best book I've ever read was Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within.
Mhm.
It's like 500 something pages long. It's a thumper, but man, that was such an eye opener because I learned so much stuff about that, and some of the stuff I learned in there, it's like, wow, I've been doing that. I just didn't even know that's what I've been doing. It's just there's so much stuff in there. It's really, really powerful, and it's like a complete guide to really, and it's going to be really hard to master. I haven't mastered everything in that book, but it's something that I keep going back to. It's a really, really good book, and it's gonna help you find that fulfillment in life that you're searching for.
Other mentors or resources that also could be like useful or that people could check out that influenced you a lot?
Yeah, I like Stephen R. Covey a lot. His, with the 7 Habits. Tony Robbins, of course, is a big one. If you're looking, in my opinion, the best marketer in the world that's alive is Russell Brunson. I mean, I don't see anybody coming close to that guy. That guy's amazing. He's helped me out so much. Those are my go-tos right there. Tony Robbins and Russell Brunson being the big ones, but there are others out there. Tim Ferriss is another really good one. Like, he has got a lot of real cool productivity hacks.
What are some ambitious goals on your bucket list that you would like to achieve? Doesn't only have to be business, but some ambitious bucket list goals that you would like to achieve at the
So
end of your life.
so I keep this little book on my desk here. It's a bucket list, and what do you call it? He hold on. It's my little bucket list still, but in here though, this year, like, I try to knock out four things on my bucket list because there's a big old thing or
Hmm.
whatever in there. It's a cool little book, but it's not like super ambitious. But for me, it's super ambitious. One of them is go swimming in the ocean at nighttime. And the reason why that's ambitious for me is because I am free. The movie Jaws messed me up for life
Hmm.
when I was a kid. There's stuff in there that we don't even know about that's just creeping around down there, and it's just a little freaky. But just to step out there and swim at night, that'd be pretty cool. Skydiving is another one for me because I am scared of heights. My biggest fears, number one, is spiders, the ocean, and heights. Those three things, like, I don't even care if it's a little bitty spider. They're creepy, right? They got 8 eyes and eight legs. That ain't supposed to be there, but whatever. So yeah, I wanna do skydiving though and swim out in the ocean. That'd be pretty cool at nighttime.
You already talked about it when people would attend your funeral. What is something you would like people to say about you at your eulogy?
That he cared so much about impacting those around them and helping people see what's really lies within them, that's always lied within them, and he helped them bring that to the surface.
Is there any kind of quote or saying that was really important for you or that you live by?
Oh man, so many of them. But one of my favorite ones by Jim Rohn is it's not about what you get. It's not about what you get. It's who you become in the process. That one right there is like, oh man, that really hit home, because it's not like once you start achieving the goals, a lot of times you're like, yeah, that was cool and all, but it's really about who you become while you achieve that goal and the skills you develop and the character that you developed and stuff. That is really what's really valuable.
The last question, if I mention a meaningful and fulfilling life, what does that mean for you? A
It
meaningful,
means
yeah.
it means finding happiness. What makes you happy? What because we're only here once. Why live your life being miserable? Be happy, achieve the goals that mean something to you, something that's going to make you feel fulfilled, having that purpose that drives you. That's what it's all about for me, and that's what I like to teach people.
Zach, I want to take a moment to appreciate you for, you also talked about it from prison to promised land, showing that people can hit rock bottom, but can make a bigger impact, can set goals, can achieve them. And it's not only about the money, it's about making an impact, taking responsibility, moving forward, and that we can change our lives no matter how many negative things happen. We can learn from it and move forward. If people want to find out more about you and the goal achievement coaching that you do, where can they get in touch with you and find out more about you?
Right on, Philip. I appreciate that. It's at ZacharyBabcock.com. And also you can check me out on YouTube, Zachary Babcock. And that's ZacharyBabcock. Appreciate you, my man.
Hey, it's Phil from Habit Bootcamps, and I help people boost their productivity and do more in less time. And I help entrepreneurs and coaches get more clients and increase their sales. If this might be something for you and you want to get on a free consultation call with me, you should go to habitbootcamps.com/getproductive or habitbootcamps.com/getclients. On the call itself, we'll figure out what your challenges are, what the next best steps are to take, and if we might be able to work together. So if you're interested in this, don't hesitate and book the free consultation session. And if you like my podcast, don't forget to subscribe and check out my Habit Bootcamp's YouTube channel and Facebook group for some more awesome content.